A slight dilemma might emerge in this UCLA coaching search. Will the new coach bring along Jerry Neuheisel as an offensive play caller? Let's find out.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever your podcast and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back, everydayers. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. What we're diving into today. First, we'll discuss Jerry Neuheisel's challenge to maintain on the staff while there might be a new coach coming to the staff if it is or is not Tim Skipper as the permanent coach. We'll transition into the UCLA basketball preseason rankings, men's and women's. And finally, we'll talk some good old John Wooden quotes to wrap it up. Meanwhile, let's get started. You got Jerry Neuheisel, who's got 80 points that the Bruins have scored offensively these last couple of weeks. I think I saw the number, 57 in the first 4 games of the season for UCLA? And that was even with the coaching transition from Deshaun Foster to Tim Skipper at Northwestern. And all of a sudden, the Bruins blew up Penn State. Penn State fired their coach. Jonathan Smith had his name thrown in the UCLA ring. And all of a sudden, the Bruins went to East Lansing, blew them up on their homecoming with a huge opportunity for UCLA during their own homecoming to excite the fans once again at the Rose Bowl with the Jerry show in full effect. All right? It's the Jerry Neuheisel effect that's seen Nico Iamaleava get out on the legs, find himself running the ball. The Bruins have used their running backs to actually run the ball more than just Nico in this last game. And Nico's had a lot better windows, a lot more open receivers, a lot more time to throw the football. I saw Max Brown, who was dissecting that play that UCLA's run each of the last 2 weeks, where Nico claps his hands, moves from one side to the next, and it's the running back, in this case, Jalen Berger, who one time ran to the left, next time ran to the right for a big touchdown against his former school. That just shows the creativity Jerry Neuheisel is willing to go to that the Bruins just didn't have in the first few weeks this season under Tino Sunseri, under the Deshaun Foster regime, even under Eric Bieniemy. Last 2 offensive coordinators for UCLA have seen the Bruins do not a lot. Not a lot this last early part of the season or the year prior, which makes Jerry, a lifelong Bruin, a hot option in the coaching market, especially for UCLA. A guy who could have gone almost anywhere to get a better gig than what was tight ends coach at UCLA, a former receivers coach, a guy who almost always is really well connected in the SoCal recruiting landscape or getting guys at his position, whatever he's coaching or recruiting, to develop those relationships to help bring them to UCLA. He has the recruiting. He's got the personality. He literally bleeds blue and gold throughout. He was beloved as a player, and now he's beloved as a coach. And he has dominated as an offensive play caller with what was the once maligned beginning of Nico's career at UCLA, now blossoming in just 2 games against what was a top 10 team and dominating a decent Michigan State team and making them look horrible on their own home field with what the Bruins did offensively. Now, here's where the dilemma lies. This is what UCLA has to decide. Is Tim Skipper the head guy? If Tim Skipper's the head guy, that means I would assume Jerry would stay as the offensive coordinator. Maybe you can even throw Kevin Coyle in there with what he's done on the defensive side to keep UCLA in it this year. And if you can, maybe even keep Noel Mazzoni as an offensive analyst for as long as he wants on the UCLA staff. So you got a veteran guy just below Jerry who can help elevate him like the Bruins have done these last couple of weeks with just, 2 to 3 days to implement a game plan, and they put up 40 another full week, and the Bruins could have put up another 40 if they didn't doink a field goal from like 30 yards away off the left upright. He was that close to having back-to-back 40 pieces, is Jerry Neuheisel. So if Tim Skipper is the head coach, then UCLA probably keeps Jerry. Now, potentially, and maybe the more likely option, I'm not really sure where the Tim Skipper to UCLA head coach thing will end up, if they go somewhere else. You name it a Jed Fish. You name it, maybe it's a Dan Mullen. Maybe it's any other name you throw out there that UCLA's tied to. It's been close to 20 to 25 different names For I've read various outlets that UCLA could be connected to, or should even throw their hat in the ring with all the other head coaching job openings around the country. All right, even if they want to poach a current head coach at his current institution. Now, if you want to go after an offensive-minded head coach, he's going to want his own guys. Whether his last podcast and James Franklin wants his own guy. Would Jed Fish want to be the guy in charge of the offense? Those are all fascinating debates that are you going to want a guy that's been with the last few coaching regimes and been elevated when the coach is gone or been fired, or in this case, when Tino was mutually parting ways with UCLA, and then Jerry Neuheisel just blows up on the scene, bursts on the scene with a great resume building for what he could do. So Jerry can do one of two things. He's either going to be the hot option and stay at UCLA no matter the coach, or what could happen is he goes and gets clear coordinating experience elsewhere. We have to bid adieu to Jerry for a few years, and then he comes back, hopefully. But then the thing is, if UCLA has a program that's stabilized under the new head coach, whoever that might be, would they really just all of a sudden make a change down the line for Jerry? Or does Jerry get that much needed coordinating experience, go to a group of 5, become a head coach, dare I say an FCS school, and bounce his way back to an eventual opening down the line where his accolades, his resume stands out as clear top UCLA football coach choice? Like, is it somewhere in the future where he's not just the offensive coordinator? Does he want to be the head coach at UCLA? Does he want to keep taking lesser jobs to be a UCLA Bruin for life? Or can he go and, unlike Deshaun Foster, get that coordinating experience and not just get thrust into the limelight and put in a terrible spot and unnecessarily look like what was a fool on the Big Ten Media Day stage? Look like a guy that led the shortest tenure in a UCLA head coach's history, where the Bruins looked absolutely awful in the first 3 weeks of the season to then turn around and shock everybody with back-to-back pretty dominant wins. So now it's going to be up to Jerry, I think. One, can he do enough that he's going to get a good enough job to go elsewhere? Or two, is he so good that the next coach says, we're just going to keep Jerry on, hoping that you can keep this roster, elevate what's left of it after the portal, high school recruiting, NFL draft considerations, and continue that as a potential genius out of nowhere, bringing this offense to the new wave of UCLA football. Can the Bruins keep him? I'd love to see him be kept. Will the new guy keep him? That is an intriguing debate. And three, maybe he just jumps ship. We say goodbye for a little bit, and he circles back when he is the man. Like, not just the offensive coordinator. This would be in his career to go be the UCLA head coach in the future. Maybe he can do that as a coordinator, still at UCLA, and then elevate. But he's not at the moment close to being ready for a UCLA head coaching job. But if he goes, he can go be a young coordinator into a young head coach somewhere else. I'm not saying that's what he should do, but it is a dilemma UCLA is going to have to face where, as well as they're playing these last few weeks, if they go 7-1 after starting 0-4 in the regular season, 8-0 after starting 0-4, I hardly think, you would think that they would keep a lot of these coordinators and whoever is a key part of this success around for the next year, and that would definitely mean Tim Skipper's the man. While UCLA is currently trying to figure it out with the coaching committee meeting with the UC Regents to go pay a top-tier coach, and now maybe it's just Tim Skipper. Maybe it is. But Jerry, he deserves to be on the UCLA staff. He wants to be on the UCLA staff. But will it be as the coordinator, or the Bruins relegate him to some lesser position? Because he is ready to go be a coordinator at UCLA or elsewhere. Can they keep him? He's going to get a significant pay raise, whether it's in blue and gold or somewhere else. And I hope at some point in the future, he is having a top job at UCLA, whether it's the offensive coordinator or, dare I say, head coach somewhere down the line. It just might mean we have to part ways with him in the near future. Next, we're talking the UCLA preseason ranking. The men just outside the top 10. The women in the top 5, but not preseason number 1. Let's discuss this next on Locked On UCLA. The holidays, they're going to be here before you know it. Whether you love it or hate it, it's exciting because getting your home ready for the guests, the celebrations, it can feel like a lot. I'll be honest. You're like, man, I got a lot of people over. How am I getting my space ready? will serve your where needs a refresh, or the guest room could use new bedding. Hint, it's going to need new bedding. Wayfair has everything you need to get your home ready, from Christmas trees to wreaths to bedding, cookware, outdoor inflatables. It's your one-stop shop to every room in the house. For Wayfair, it makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection for every style, budget. It's free and easy delivery. Even with the big stuff, you can get everything you need with the house without the hassle of a huge delivery fee. For me, I got a lot of people who live in my apartment. Got a lot of people who sit here, and we're going to bring people over and enjoy the holiday celebrations coming through. But we're going to need some of that Christmas decor, some of that fall decor as we transition from autumn into winter. We're going to need that. That's where Wayfair can come. Make it easy, free to bring it in here. Get organized, refresh, and ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Well, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Think about this: player props, parlays, many other ways to play with FanDuel. You'll stay engaged with the action, even if it's not your favorite team. But if you want to get in with UCLA on a Saturday college football action, man, the Bruins, those projections are a little crazy. You want to get in. And if you're a new customer, $5, you win. You can get $300 in bonus bets. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Cruising on here into segment 2, we're talking UCLA hoops, men and the women, because the AP poll, the top 25 poll, the preseason poll that's going to affect our opinions for everything from overreactions to big-time wins, whether they're realistic or not by the time March comes around, from November into December. Overreaction Tuesday, Monday, everything. It's all because of the AP Top 25 preseason poll. So let's start with Mick Cronin's bunch. This is a big season for UCLA. They come in the preseason poll ranked 12th. I still think they should be top 10 good. Heck, even Andy Katz has UCLA as a dark horse Final Four team. I'm not sure I've heard of a dark horse team being outside or just near the top 10 as a dark horse team, because the Bruins are legit. And Mick Cronin has continued to build his team as one that's similar to his Pac-12 winning championship squad of a couple years ago. He says it, and I believe it, and I also have said it. UCLA's not hurt. They're one of the shortlist championship contenders. I've said that a couple years ago, if they weren't hurt, we don't even know if Dan Hurley gets a contract from the Lakers if UCLA doesn't get hurt that year. Well, this year's team is stacked and built similarly to that roster. You bring in Donovan Dent in the portal. That's been much discussed, much ballyhooed all the way around college basketball, inside everywhere, inside and out. The Bruins sit there, and this is what the rankings look like. You have Purdue, who is the preseason favorite to win the Big Ten. They're also the preseason number 1. So that means when UCLA hosts Purdue, they could potentially have a number 1 team in the country, Braden Smith, the 2-time preseason Big Ten Player of the Year, coming into Pauley Pavilion. That arena better be packed. Better be packed, full of energy, full of life, everything. So think about that. Purdue is number 1. Then you cruise down, you skip a few. Michigan, that's number 7. Valentine's Day, it might not be a day of love when the Bruins get the Adayamara revenge game out in Ann Arbor between a team, and a battle between the Wolverines and UCLA could very well be a top 10 or a top 15 matchup, depending on where the teams are in mid-February 2025. Could be one that defines the Big Ten standings, tiebreakers, who's the 1 seed, who's the 2 seed, who gets the better seeding draw in the NCAA tournament by that game. So that's already 2 teams from the Big Ten in the top 10 overall. UCLA is just outside the top 10, behind Texas Tech and behind Louisville. All right. So those are teams from the Big 12, the ACC that UCLA sits just behind. I am a big proponent that UCLA should be in the top 10. I really think so. I truly think so. But here the Bruins are just outside it. Right behind them, though, or below them in the rankings, Arizona. So that early second game of the season for UCLA, second, third game of the year, whatever day that game is, I think it's 3rd or 4th. Arizona, when it's the neutral site game at the Intuit Dome, That's a top 15 battle. And if there's an upset on the first couple of days of the season, very well could be a battle between top 10 teams if they win their first few games. Huge game for West Coast supremacy between the Bruins and the Cats. Below the Bruins, you eventually get Illinois. You have Gonzaga, who's ranked. The Bruins do go to Seattle later this year to take on the Zags from Spokane. Michigan State, and you have Wisconsin. I've counted a total of, I think, 7 teams from UCLA's schedule that are in the preseason top 25. Close to 7. And in the teams receiving votes, UCLA is going to play about 14 to 15 teams in the top 25 that will be on their schedule. From the top 25 to the top 30 teams in the country, you have from the teams in the top 25 to receiving votes, UCLA is going to play 14 of them, including an exhibition against San Diego State on this upcoming Friday. All right, this upcoming week, UCLA is taking on San Diego State. Now, we'll discuss that a little bit more, but the Bruins are having an absolutely loaded schedule, despite what is one that lacks travel, lacks some marquee matchups in the early part. The back half of the schedule is where the Bruins are going to have all the hype and also all the tests in January. A little bit to a late December, early December matchup against Oregon if Jackson Shelstad is healthy. But so far, the Bruins, they're going to have their moxie tested later in the year. I do think they should be in the top 10. For the women, though, this is where Corey Close's squad comes in. You have the UConn Huskies, who were the preseason number 1. While they lost Paige Beckers, they still have Fudd, Sarah Strong. They have Sarah Williams, the transfer from Wisconsin, and they have a couple of the transfers to help fill out a roster filled with talent. Absolutely filled with talent. All right. So UConn preseason number 1. South Carolina is preseason number 2, just because they got to that championship game and got their butts kicked by UConn. Well, UCLA, they're number 3. And because they got blasted so badly by UConn in last season's Final Four, they're not even a preseason number 1. I still think the Bruins are one of the most talented teams in the country, if not the most talented team in the country. But UConn's got Sarah Strong, and because they have Sarah Strong and still dominated UCLA's power and post play with Lauren Betts, the Bruins are not going to get that preseason love. Now with the preseason schedule the Bruins have, the non-conference schedule, UCLA can change that narrative with the Tennessees of the world. Maybe if they go play South Carolina on Thanksgiving Day, if they win their first day of the games, they can maybe, just maybe, assert themselves as the number 1 team in the country. Because UCLA, they will play Texas, who's ranked right behind them, number 4. They could potentially play South Carolina, who's ranked ahead of them at number 2. They play Oklahoma in Sacramento. So the top 6 teams, UCLA could play 3 of them. They're already scheduled to play 2 of them. You go to 7, all right, that's Duke. UCLA is either playing South Carolina or Duke in one of those games on Thanksgiving Day. So either way, of the top 7, UCLA is going to play Oklahoma and Texas for sure, and either South Carolina or Duke. So that is 3 of the top 7. 3 of the top 7 UCLA is going to play. Oh, and by the way, you go to Tennessee, who's number 8. Who does UCLA play at the end of November? They host Tennessee. So the top 8 teams, UCLA is playing half of them. And considering UCLA is a ranked top 8 team in the country, there's only 7 available teams. Of the non-UCLA top 8 teams, the Bruins are playing more than half of them in the first, month of the year? I think the Bruins can assert their dominance and control of the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, number 1 overall ranking very quickly, and prove that they are the most dominant team in the country, and we'll see if they're for real just by going through the first few teams in the country. Maryland is the top 10 team. UCLA gets to play them later in the Big Ten schedule. North Carolina's on that schedule as well. So if UCLA, in terms of top 11 matchups, the Bruins have 5 to 6 of those. Top 11 matchups. That's huge. You're playing like 60% of the top 10 teams in the country coming in the preseason. That's absolutely nuts. We'll know if UCLA is for real in the first month or so. If not, Corey Close can have the biggest coaching job of her career. Right now, she has assembled one of the best teams UCLA's ever had with their women's program. This is the year to win the title. Betts in her senior year. Kiki Rice in her senior year. Charlize Ledger-Walker waiting a full injury-plagued year to come back after transferring from Washington State. Gianna Neepkins, Gabriela Jaquez. You go with Angela Dugalich staying for that final year at UCLA. Long-time Bruins, whether they've been in the portal for a long time or just joined this year, UCLA has a team that is so potentially dominant with one of the toughest, if not best schedules in the country in the early part of non-conference play to prove that they are deserving of the number one ranking. It might take a lot to bump UConn away from being number one in the country, but man, that is an absolutely stacked rankings list when it comes to the top 25 from the AP top 25. Those are like the last 2 days of rankings. Huge rankings. I think UCLA, both the men and the women, are underappreciated for very different reasons. The men have to prove it a lot more. The women, they're going to show very early if they are the best team in the country, or at least contending for a national championship. Next, we're going to cruise on because I'm posting this episode on October 14th. And you know what that means? It's John Wooden's birthday. We'll go some legendary quotes. Obviously, you know the memories. Let's talk about a little bit of some fun John Wooden quotes and thoughts for him on his birthday. Back in, I believe, 1910, he was born in the state of Indiana. Let's honor the Bruin great when we come back on Locked On UCLA. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, energy in the stands. There's nothing like it, but let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. The endless queues, the hidden fees, prices, they jump at checkout. But that's why you should, and I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to you and me, the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. So you're looking at Game Time. You're seeing, hey, those tickets at the Rose Bowl this weekend, they're pretty cheap when they're taking on Maryland. Yeah, the Bruins are the hottest ticket, the hottest commodity in college football. And why don't you go support them by going to the Rose Bowl, getting a very, very family-friendly price of going to the Rose Bowl. There's been so much talk about other prices you can go pay. No, go to the college football game in the Rose Bowl, support the Bruins on homecoming, see those amazing throwback jerseys. You don't have to guess about where the best seats are. It's the Rose Bowl. Every seat's freaking awesome. But if you need a picture, go look at it. Game Time's got pictures and views from the seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets from Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege at $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, so here we have John Wooden's birthday. It's October 14th here in 2025. Obviously, it's been a little bit of time since the legendary John Wooden has passed on, but he was born on this day in 1910. So what made him a legend? Obviously, it was all this, the on-court accomplishments, the designing, the building of the pyramid of success, which for a long time was my wallpaper on my laptop growing up through high school. But here are some of the best quotes that I think are the most inspirational, the ones that we can use every day as UCLA fans, just as people too. This is one of them that was a quote about success. These are John Wooden quotes. Look at these on the CoachWooden.com website. Here's his quote about success. Success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to become the best you are capable of becoming. All right. And honestly, if you want to see a direct example of that, you might be seeing the UCLA football team, despite all the adversity, despite all the stuff going around outside, inside the program. It's been UCLA football turning in what could have been a dreadful 0-12 season into becoming the best they're becoming with just a UCLA lifer, Jerry Neuheisel, embodying this spirit, embodying this quote in real life right now. Right now, with how the Bruin football team is playing, embodying the great Coach Wooden quote there. Some other quotes. Here you go. If you let your emotions take over, you'll be outplayed. Well, when I'm playing board games and I'm playing other athletic events, I can let my emotions take over. I don't know about you, whether you're watching your kid, maybe you're playing or you're rooting on the Bruins. The emotions, they certainly take over after the games when we have our reactions. But man, the Bruins have showcased just endless positivity. I forget the exact quote from Tim Skipper, but just he's radiating positivity on this program. Jerry Neuheisel is literally shining the sunshine all over the program. Obviously, it's the hair. Maybe he needs a shampoo deal. But that's what the football team has been doing. And what Mick Cronin, I know he's a very emotional on the sidelines, a little bit of an antithesis to Coach Wooden, but he brings it out into pouring into his players and trying to help elevate them despite their situation. Prior to UCLA, he tries to do that with them coming to UCLA. Other quotes from Coach Wooden, you have failing to prepare is preparing to fail. All right. And, that's an easy life lesson that we could talk about all over and over again. Good values attract good people. Another quote from Coach Wooden: things turn out best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. And another final quote: condition your team to love the struggle. All right. Well, Cronin conditions his team to love the struggle, whether it's the Big Ten travel, the gauntlet. You talk about the ranking. It's not about the ranking. It's about the end result, the growing of young men for the UCLA men's team. All right. Even Corey Close embodies the spirit as the women's basketball head coach throughout designing her team, constructing it, but also wanting them to become better players and better people on and off the court is what she's been able to do while making her team one of the best in the country with the UCLA program's rise as they've transitioned into Big Ten play. And there's been struggles. The UCLA women have seen a struggle, an early loss to an LSU, then elevated to the Final Four. And they're trying to grow and get over the hump and win that first championship in the NCAA era. For Mick Cronin, it's what does this look like with the new travel, the crazy crowds, being hard on them in practice? Can they embody the struggle when they're down and out and trying to win? The football team has done it so far. So all these teams that I'm talking about currently embodying the idea to love the struggle, and they're coming out better on the other side, or they're about to go through the gauntlet with the beginning of the season just upon us in the next couple of weeks for basketball. It is the birthday of John Wooden, the Wizard of Westwood, led the Bruins to so many championships, 10, and just, man, a great man on and off the court. We thank you, Coach Wooden, for all the wisdom, for showcasing leadership, the great quotes you have, the pyramid of success. Obviously, it's pretty easy to simply state the amount of championships, the 10 that he won at UCLA, the impact he had on the game of basketball, his heavenly birthday here today in the middle of October 2025. Thank you, Coach Wooden. And with that, we're going to have a loud 8 clap. All right. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.